Welcome back, everybody, to
Woohoo!
Hoops HD. It is Wednesday, January 24th. That means it's time for our Under the Radar podcast. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. Got David Griggs next to me. Down below from Bracketeer.org, we got Rocco Miller back with us. Rocco, been a little while since we've seen you on here. Good. First of all, glad to have you back again.
Good to be back, fellas. Yeah, I've been on the road last couple of weeks. Good to be back in the saddle for at least this week and getting caught up on everything. So it's awesome to be on the show.
Awesome. Okay, we've got a bunch to get to, but this is our Under the Radar show. So, Griggs, can you start by telling people who may not be familiar with it what it means to be under the radar?
In layman's terms, you're in one of the 22 conferences that typically only get one bid. We always want to emphasize that there's no rule that says they only get one. We probably think there's two or three conferences that are going to be in position to get more than one. We'll get to that during the show. But it's the 22 conferences that regularly get one bid. So certainly not the Power Five, and certainly not the other five regular multi-bid conferences like the Big East, American, Atlantic 10, usually West Coast, and I always forget one.
American, Atlantic 10, Big
West
East,
Coast, Big
Mountain
East,
West.
Mountain
I think
West.
we
There you
got
go.
whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do. We're doing the shows. We go through each of those conferences in alphabetical order, other than a feature conference. But actually, before we even get to that, we have a little bit of news about the website that I thought we could share here on our show. I'll bring it up on on the
Yeah.
screen share. In fact, let's go right here on the screen share. This is our Hoops HD website that you're all should be familiar with, and you're probably watching us on right here on the
Yeah,
website
we've
right
got
now.
a winter reading list. John Titel's winter reading list. Very
Hey,
exciting announcement.
great interview by Tytel.
Yeah.
Hey, it is the middle of winter. We've got the various tabs up here with the bracketology, the J&G, the conference tournaments, but we have a new one right here called Hoops HD Team Sheets. And for those of you that have been watching us, you've seen the team sheets we pull up during this show. I've got you people asking me, can we have access to that? Well, go ahead and click on that, and you do now have access to it. There's about 10 or 12 conferences up so far. Next few days, they'll all be up on the website here. But
Yeah.
you could choose any team here, pick on pick one of them. Let's say you were interested in Stetson's profile. You go ahead and
Yeah,
click on it.
because why wouldn't you be interested in Stetson's profile? I mean, we're going
Uh,
to look at this
Big
extensively.
win.
Yeah,
Big win at UCF.
they
big
do.
win.
They do have that win
Yeah.
at UCF. Yeah.
So there it is. If you want to see Stetson's team sheet or any other team sheets that are up there, they are up there. Go ahead, click on it, and you'll be able to access. This is the exact same team sheet that we use during these shows, and they
That
are
we
going to be
use.
updated.
And
For now, they're
I
going to be updated about once a day. In the future, I'm looking to try to get them updated a little bit quicker. But let's get them up on the site first before
Yeah,
that.
and in a couple features here, Chad, you got the different power ratings. This is a replica, I believe, of what the actual committee uses. Not many people know that the Hoops
Same
HD logo
information.
is on the committee sheet.
Same information, different format. A few other things that we have on here that the actual committee does not have, like our JNG rating is on here, and the
Yeah,
OA our average rating, and there's a glossary down here. So enjoy it, everybody. We're throwing it out there for all
yeah,
of you.
yeah. Why aren't you done defending it all in yet, Chad? You only got like 100 on there. I mean,
I
come
only
on,
started it yesterday. Come on, give me through the weekend at least. Come on. All right, but let's go ahead and go right to our feature conference, and uh, especially with yet another win tonight by the first place team, I thought it'd be a great week to start things out in the
Oh my
Patriot League
God. Yeah.
uh, with and Rocco. This has been I think one of the most amazing stories I ever remember. This Lafayette team that went 0-12 versus D1 non-conference. Look, they play a decent schedule, not a great one, but a decent one, and has not lost a Patriot League game yet. Uh, Another 2-0 week, including a win tonight at Loyola by a dominating fashion, 70-44.
Yeah, funny enough, I mean, today's win was the first time. Well, they did beat Navy by 16. So those are the only two examples of them really dominating. They've had a ton of squeakers. The game before this, an OT win. They were down really big against Bucknell, actually,
Yeah, they
Were, yeah.
and
were.
rallied all the way back to force overtime and then win. This Leopards team, I agree with you 100%, is the most surprising story. And really, I think by beating Colgate in that third game of the conference season, the confidence that must have came from that has really kind of propelled them to greater heights and winning four additional games since then. If you look at some of the things they're doing well in league play specifically, they are playing the best defense in the league. So, hey, one of our favorite stats there. And They're holding teams to shooting below 43%. The only team in the Patriot League doing that defensively, and even from inside the paint, holding teams under 41.5%. So whatever Coach Mike McGarvey's been doing there defensively, I don't think they have a lot of personnel changes. So they've really just grown through all that losing and come on the other side of it. That's really good to see.
Yeah, and they already won their toughest game at Colgate.
Yeah,
Was everyone's preseason pick, and they still have the best metrics of anyone in the conference. They get Colgate again in middle of February 19th at home. But yeah, this team, I've got the leopard fever here, Griggs. I'm absolutely on the bandwagon. It took me a couple of weeks to get you on the bandwagon with me, but I think you're there.
It's just preposterous. It's much better as Colgate looked than everybody else. And I mean, if you look at the metrics there on the page, they still appear to be the best team. They do play again, but there is a lot at stake here during the regular season. I know that this is a one bid league and it's the auto bid winner, but home court advantage is determined by the standings, and that makes these games really important. If Lafayette keeps going at this clip and gets Colgate a second time, Colgate will not catch them because they're essentially 3 games behind.
Yeah, well, if they got to keep winning, obviously,
Yeah.
but and it's just amazing. You look at Colgate 149 net, Lafayette 304 net. Yet we're going to be doing a bracket rundown show again tomorrow night, and this could be my Patriot League champion again.
As they should be.
Yeah, they're the first place team, and
150 points better than that behind another team in the league, though. It's ridiculous.
It is.
Yeah.
Upcoming this week, Lafayette is going to be hosting BU and American. So, with the
Americans got another level as well. I don't think that'll be an easy game for Lafayette.
It won't be, but they are at home, and there's getting to be some electricity around this. Like people at Lafayette are starting to kind of get a little bit excited here.
Actually, Americans will be hosting Colgate on Saturday before next week's American Lafayette game, and then Colgate's hosting Army next Wednesday. So those are probably the most important games. You kind of look at that Colgate American game. Actually, that if American pulls off that upset, Colgate could be looking at 3rd or 4th place in this conference suddenly.
I know. Yeah. And that means if they drop below 2nd, they're playing the semifinal game on the road.
Of course, this is a conference tournament where we have seen a team come out of the 10 seed and win it also.
Yes.
So things do get crazy even with home court advantage in the Patriot League tournament. Let's go ahead and run through the rest of the leagues here and start things off in alphabetical order in the America East, where we amazingly still we have this 3-way tie between Lowell, Vermont, and Bryant. None of them have played each other yet, and I think maybe one of the more surprising stories is this Bryant team. I know they won that game against Florida Gulf Coast, but they really showed me nothing else in any of their other non-conference games. But here they are at a 4-0 record now, Rocco, and right there, and maybe in the battle for this conference title.
They're certainly performing like it. If you look at the last month of performances, Bryant's actually the top team in the league, coming in on Torvik's model as a top 90 team in that time. Really impressive stuff. Earl Timberlake, of course, former Miami Hurricane, former player in the CAA as well. Really dominant player here at this America East level. He's in the running for Player of the Year. So is Sharif Gross Bullock. So they have 2 dynamite older players leading the way. We all remember Doug Edert from the great St. Peter's team 2 years ago. He's on this roster, comes off the bench, gives them a nice spark. So they've got a good mix of older guys. Really big credit goes to Phil Martelli Jr., who came in a crisis situation and really kind of calmed the storm around the team, got them locked in. And they had the FAU win, as you said. And we'll see what happens when they play the other 2 big dogs. Speaking of the other 2 big dogs, this date, January 25th, tomorrow, has been circled forever, when UMass Lowell finally gets to host Vermont. And from Lowell's standpoint, they are getting great timing as they've been waiting for 6 weeks for Abdul Karim Koulibaly to finally return. He's now played 2 or 3 games. I think he's back at basically 100%. And, of course, Ayinde Hakeem is having just a tremendous year as well. Vermont's been steady Eddie, as always, 4-0. So something's got to give tomorrow night. I can't wait to watch that game.
And actually, Yeah, I was gonna say these next couple days here, though, this is where Vermont could just put their foot down on this conference if they could win at Lowell and at Bryant, which are their next two games, or we
Yeah.
could, or this might be our future league next week because it's complete chaos. Go ahead,
Right, but I
Griggs.
mean, what a big week for Vermont, and it is kind of crazy that it was sort of not it was not front loaded at all for any of the top three, and now it's just sort of created a really interesting storyline, especially for Vermont. But I still really like this Vermont team. I like Lowell too, but it wouldn't surprise me. I don't want to go so far to say as I'm going to predict it, but it would not shock me if Vermont won them both, and we're here next week saying, "Oh, it's Vermont's league."
I think if that happens, this league is almost over because that is their
Yeah,
that is they'll get the two teams again, but next time we'll be at home. These are the road
right.
games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Griggs, let me stick with you over in the A-Sun conference where I've been doing it for 3 or 4 weeks now. I've got to keep giving you credit for your preseason prediction of Eastern Kentucky. Yeah, they only
Yeah.
won one non-conference game, but against D1, but here they are 5-0 in sole possession of first place now.
Yeah, they were my preseason before the season started pick. They would have never been my post Christmas pick ever, and then here they are 5 in a row. If you pull them up, it has been a little bit backloaded, but you know they do have that win. I think you know North Alabama, Austin P. They don't really they haven't faced Kennesaw or like the
Well, they
if
beat
there's
Lipscomb. They
heavyweights.
did beat Lipscomb at
They
home,
did
so
beat
that
Lipscomb. Yeah, and they beat Lipscomb at home, and that was kind of a big surprise. I still like this Lipscomb team, although they've been a little bit disappointing in league play. But it's just, and when you look at this schedule, Purdue, Alabama, it wasn't like they played Purdue, Alabama, Greensboro, and Louisiana are hard to win. Western Kentucky hard to win. So maybe we were a little quick to dismiss them,
they
but
still lost at home to Tennessee Martin in Prairie View.
in Prairie View. And had they won both of those, I think that we'd be feeling even better about them. But
That was
I
back in
don't know.
November. Now this is a very different team, right? We're playing
Yeah.
right now.
In another conference where it's campus sites, and I mean EKU, can they win the league? Can they keep going full steam ahead? And they've already beaten one of the front runners in Lipscomb.
Um,
Fun to watch, fast paced team.
Beyond that, though, the Rocco North Florida gave Kennesaw their first loss last Thursday night, and you know they may be sneaking into the conversation here suddenly in this league. And we'd really been looking at Kennesaw, Lipscomb, and EKU up until maybe this week even.
Yeah, Ospreys have earned our attention, I would say. You know, they got the 3 home wins in a row and pretty convincing passion against Jacksonville, Kennesaw, and Queens. I think Kennesaw really the main one there that is a contender. Their only loss in the league is a 1 point loss to Stetson. That could have gone either way. And North Florida is bombs away. 67th in the country in 3 point field goal percentage, and they shoot a high percentage of their shots from three, 55.5%. If you look at KenPom right now, that's number one in the nation, highest ratio of 3 point attempts. So again, a bombs away team like this is pretty agnostic to home and road. Really, of course, they prefer to play at home, get the crowd rolling a little bit. But in general, if they can run their system effectively, knock down open shots, they're going to beat everybody that they play in this league. This league's not very difficult this year, 25th best league. So
In fact,
North Florida is a team to watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a quick score update here. Just one final should populate right there. Kennesaw just suffered another loss at home.
God.
This time to North Alabama. That game
Right.
just went final. So now,
Oh.
Kennesaw really started to fall off the pace in this conference. EKU, North Florida. I still think Lipscomb is part of this mix, though.
Yeah, and
Here's-
Austin Peay's playing better. It's actually pretty wide open, to be fair.
Fair point. EKU, if we are, kind of tracking them here, that their games are going to be hosting Jacksonville and hosting North Florida this week, beginning tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's a good game Saturday. Two teams that
Yeah.
are really playing well and in a fun style. You mentioned the bombs away and then the pressure defense of EKU. That one should be fun.
Yeah, and as long as North Florida can get by Bellarmine on Thursday, that will be a first place on the line game.
Yeah, I think they will. Bellarmine really having a rough year this year.
Yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Bellarmine tried to convince the NCAA to make it postseason eligible this year. That they only 10 teams even qualify for the ASUN tournament. I don't know if they're going to even make that make that tournament, let alone the
Yeah,
NCAA tournament. Unfortunately,
Not
uh,
looking pretty.
no.
no.
Uh, we're in the Big Sky Conference.
Oh, oh, Weber State. What the hell? What is it? 3 in a row now? 4 in a row? What
They
has
bounced
happened?
they bounced back with a win over Idaho on Saturday.
Okay, yeah, that's a great win against
Uh,
Idaho. Yeah.
you beat a bad team at home, but this is a conference we were on the Portland State bandwagon early. Then it was the Weber State bandwagon, and it was Montana for I think a week or so. Forget them all, Rocco. It's the Eagles, is it not?
My preseason pick.
It is, but there's another bandwagon available that hasn't been discussed seriously. I think it might be time, and that's the Northern Colorado bandwagon.
Oh, I
Uh,
wasn't quite ready yet. I needed one. I needed
Mhm.
another win. I know they crushed
well,
Portland State,
Thursday,
but Portland State fell off the planet too. So,
well, they'll have their chance tomorrow, Chad, because
Yep.
first place is on the line with Northern Colorado going to Cheney and taking on the red hot Eastern Washington Eagles. If it was a football game, they'd be playing on the Inferno turf. Instead, they'll be playing in the gym. But St. Thomas transferred to Northern Colorado from Loyola Chicago. He is a higher major player, dominating. He's right next to Dylan Jones right now for Player of the Year, which is shocking. I think Dylan Jones was pretty much a shoe in for Player of the Year before the year started. And so he's carried this Northern Colorado team to new heights. Eastern, of course, is just absolutely on fire, passing every test, including a road win at Weber not too long ago. So very excited about what Cedric Coward and the EWU Eagles are doing. He's a superb junior. And yeah, David Riley, hats off to you, man. One of the youngest coaches in the country still. And last couple of years, they just dominating Big Sky play in the regular season.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Griggs, keep things rolling here into the Big South Conference, where High Point had a nice 2-0 week, being Charleston Southern and USC Upstate, not against the top of the conference here, but there they are. And just tonight, UNC Asheville really took it to Radford tonight. That kind of surprised me, that final score.
UNC, yeah,
So
both
they're
these
right there
teams are.
also.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are right there. And I know High Point is a team that we're sort of been enamored with. We've talked a lot more about them than we have Asheville, but Asheville was the preseason favorite. Asheville has an incredibly talented roster, especially in the post, and they're keeping pace and they're looking at least this week really really strong on the court. I think that they're right there. I know Winthrop is just a game behind Asheville, but I kind of think as much as I like them that they're going to fall off the pace a little bit. But yeah, I think it's a two-horse race between Asheville and High Point, and who's going to get home court advantage for this conference tournament? Another conference that does it right.
Um, that does it right by playing the tournament. I believe they play the tournament in Charlotte,
No,
the
no,
private
no. They
tournament.
used to. Yeah,
And they've been doing that for about 4 or 5 years now. But if you call going to Charlotte correct, it's yeah,
no, it's not
that's
correct. The campus sites.
uh, uh, Rocco. Any other thoughts on the Big South here?
Well, Duke Miles has missed the last couple games for High Point. That's been
Right.
what I thought a player they really needed, but it just shows how deep they are. They handled USC Upstate in a road environment tonight with really relative ease. But I'll be curious to see what his status is for Saturday. High Point at Winthrop should be a big time game, and I think
That's a great game. Yeah.
yeah, and I think High Point will need all their horses. If they don't have Miles, I would give Winthrop the edge there. And again, Asheville, everybody talks about Drew Pember, rightfully so, but tonight's game was a beautiful one, not only in the result, but the fact that all five starters scored at least 11 points. As Asheville goes, they need to be balanced like that because Pember's going to get double teamed by everybody. So that was a really encouraging performance by the Bulldogs tonight in their win against Radford.
Yeah, interesting game next Wednesday. It's still a week away, but Asheville going to Gardner Webb.
That is a
The,
good game.
at
Yeah.
Charleston Southern,
Gardner
I
Webb is
think they
hot.
win. But yeah, that's why I think it's a really interesting game next Wednesday. That you definitely want to circle after that High Point Winthrop game for Saturday.
Yeah, and Gardner Webb went into Longwood and pounded them tonight on the road, so they're feeling it right now.
Yeah, Longwood's kind of fallen off the pace a bit, though. I don't still have a winning record overall. I don't know if that's going to hold up by the end of the season, unfortunately. Uh,
Yeah.
over in the Big West Conference, uh, and this conference saw almost a shocking I thought it was shocking, but we talked a little bit last week about that. This UC Davis team was a team we really hadn't been discussing much. They were sitting there, I think 5-1 last week. They go out, they win by 2 at Fullerton, and then they get the Rocco that the huge home win over UC Irvine, and now
Yeah.
by half a game in first place in the league.
They've only played Irvine twice. The first matchup they lost in overtime
Right.
down in Irvine, and then they nip them by 2 in a much more low-scoring game. They're beating Irvine at their own game, chat, with defense. And in conference play, Davis has the best defense in conference games alone. However, UC Irvine's got a top 25 defense for the season. So it was fascinating to just kind of see the chess match between Jim Les and Russ Turner in that one. And who knows, maybe we'll see that again later if they can maintain this. Obviously, a star player for Davis and Eli Pepper. But sorry, go ahead, Chad.
No, I was gonna say this would be if we get these two teams for a third time in the Big West Championship game. I think it'll be an incredible game, especially when the first two played out.
Yeah,
Yeah, the first two were incredible.
Phenomenal. And like we've said, that there's 4, 5, 6 other teams in this league. If they get hot at that time, we're going to see an incredible, I want to say, Final Four of the Big West tournament, no matter which 4 get there.
The Big West tournament format changed this year too. They're now doing this 8-team ladder, much like the Ohio Valley has done in recent years. So
yeah,
but it does make it big for the top 2 seeds to get the bye. UC San Diego will not be. UC San Diego will not be one of those teams. They are the only team in the nation whose conference does not let them play in the conference tournament as an ineligible transitional team. So
yeah,
it could be Davis Irvine rolling right into it.
Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I know that they haven't done it recently, but the Big West has used a ladder before, haven't they? And
I think last year. I think last year they did.
Didn't they? Didn't they do it in maybe even the pre-Hoops HD days?
At one point they might have. They've gone through various different formats. They tried to play this conference tournament in Anaheim for years, and nobody ever showed up. So,
and it was one of those tournaments, and it just seemed like there were several years in a row where the top seed either really sweat or got knocked out. And you want to do something, even from a selfish reason. You want the best team, the team that has the best chance at winning in the round of 64, to have the most wide open path through the tournament. So I can kind of support the ladder here. I think it makes the regular season a lot more exciting. Teams jockeying for position.
Big game, I think that maybe highlight here on Saturday, UC San Diego, who is also playing pretty good basketball this year, even though they are still transitional, at UC Davis. So even though UC San Diego not eligible for the conference tournament, a loss to them does count in those conference standings. So could be an interesting one. Griggs, over in the Coastal, suddenly Drexel has a 2-game lead in the loss column, actually 2.5 games overall over everybody here, especially after that really good game between UNC Wilmington and College of Charleston, which resulted in an inexplicable court storming.
Yeah. So let's pull up Drexel a little bit here, because I'm certainly impressed with what they've done. And they had the win against Villanova earlier in the year. And, Wilmington also a good team. But when you start to look at Fairfield and Monmouth and the kind of games they've been winning, it hasn't exactly been the better, stronger teams in the league. And I'm glad you went to me, but I kind of wanted to ask you two about Drexel. Is this a little bit fool's gold? And is it really still going to be Wilmington and Charleston once we get through the entire conference schedule and they face both those teams? Even going to Towson is a harder game than like what they've been playing for most of the last few weeks. That stretch where they go to Wilmington and Hofstra is going to be hard. I just think that most of their harder games are still ahead of them.
I would agree with that from a schedule standpoint. I do think they're good enough to win it, though. They were my pick to win the league at the start before the season started. Amari Williams is a matchup nightmare for most opponents. They do have the home win over Wilmington. They dominated them by 15 in that game. So we'll see. I do agree. Towson's going to be a great test tomorrow. They've lost at Towson 7 straight times. So they try to break that spell on Thursday night. And then, like you said, David, they got to go to Wilmington. They got to go to Charleston. They got to go to Hofstra. Even at Delaware is a local rivalry, not easy to win, even though they just dominated them too. So it's good for the Dragons that they've built up this cushion. But, yeah, they do have their tougher stretch coming.
Yeah, there's the rest of the schedule here. Wilmington's got games at Northeastern and Stony Brook, so a pair of road games. Same for Charleston, a pair of road games this week at Hampton and at Campbell. Against teams they should beat, but you never know when you go out on the road. So
Right.
let's keep an eye on these games here. Um, Rocco, Conference USA.
Oh,
At the beginning of the season, it's the first after the first game or two of a conference standings, everything was upside down with Liberty and Louisiana Tech both at the bottom of the standings. Is finally starting to the ship is starting to right, I think, a little bit. Louisiana Tech starting to look a lot better, I think, especially with that win. I guess well, maybe it was a week back that they had a nice win, but they did win at Jacksonville State this past weekend.
Yeah, I agree. Louisiana Tech's a great roster, a bunch of heartbreakers in non-conference, and
oh,
even to start off conference, right? Sam
Yeah.
Houston loss was not pretty. So we'll see. I think this league is brutal because the travel is not pleasant. A lot of multiple time zones, up to 3 time zones in this league, and only 9 teams trying to fit all these games in, and that can a lot of times lead to poor performances, especially on the road. And Jacksonville State is like the sneakiest weapon possible. Ray Harper throws those matchup zones at you. They're capable. Just ask Liberty. They went into Liberty
yeah.
and stymied them. And so there's I like this league a lot because you really I think it's the most unpredictable league on a given night.
Yeah, it's really shown that so far. And, here we got New Mexico State that we thought was going to be awful, also tied at 3-1, although that may be a factor of the schedule. But they did get a nice win over Western Kentucky, and
Yeah, they did. And I mean, talk about a program that has been through it in recent years. And I just thought it would be a while before they saw any sort of success at all. Nice win against Western Kentucky, and you kind of sit up and say, do the Lobos have, or not the Lobos, excuse me, the Aztecs, do they have something here?
Yeah, I think another cool story.
The Aztecs. Keep going,
Aggies.
keep
I,
going,
I said I
keep
I,
going. You're being bad for
okay,
saying New Mexico.
Las
Greg.
Cruces is on fire right now. They're
Okay,
yeah.
sorry, Rocco. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think a really cool storyline. It's great that it played out this way, and it's still early enough to where we're only 4 games into the conference schedule, but we have 3-1 New Mexico State traveling to 3-1 Sam Houston on tomorrow night, Thursday night,
Yep.
and that's where Jason Hooten coached for 9 years. It's his return game. The crowd was already going to be fired up to welcome him back. I think they'll welcome him with open arms. He got them to the tournament once. They had a lot of great teams at Sam Houston, but now this got even more on the line. Really, first place is on the line in this game, and I don't think there's any guarantee that either of these two will be in this position later this year. So I think it's really cool that there's some extra juice on the Jason Hooten return game.
I'll tell you what we New Mexico State could be our lead story next week if they can sweep this week at Sam Houston at Louisiana Tech, because they will be
Oh,
clearly in sole possession of this conference, and I don't
that's a
think
big
anybody
if.
expected that.
That's
I
a
don't think it
big if,
happens
yeah.
either, but
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of energy expended in that first game. So if they can get
yeah.
that first one, I don't know how much will be left in the tank in Ruston, but we'll see how it plays out.
Griggs, over in the Horizon League,
Yeah.
we were talking last week that Oakland was starting to move up there, and here they are. They did. What did they do? They didn't even play this in the past 7 days, but they're
Right.
still sitting there in first place. Especially after Green Bay with it got crushed at NKU, which is almost surprising in the final score. And
Right.
meanwhile, Fort Wayne continues to just free fall.
Yeah, kind of surprising after Fort Wayne looked so good in November and December, and even like right out of the gate in conference play. It's been, I don't know, one of the more bigger surprises, disappointing results that were unexpected as far as under the radar. And then, but Greg Campion Oakland while they had the week off has just looked so good. But the thing about this league, it's another league that typically it doesn't play out this way. It's normally a 2-horse race. For a lot of years, it was Northern Kentucky, Wright State. Last year, we had Youngstown State was the big story. But look at the standings, and you've got Oakland, you've got Green Bay playing well, you got the Penguins who are still in the mix, just a game back, and Fort Wayne, while they're only 4-5, we've seen what they're capable of doing. If they can get their ship turned back around, they can be dangerous. When was the last time we ever saw 6 or 7 teams from the horizon where you could legitimately say, yeah, that team can beat that team can beat anyone in the league?
Uh, and Rocco, I think this is going to be a really fun conference tournament, actually, because this is wide open.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
answer to David's question was going to be every year in the quarterfinals when it's the most unpredictable quarterfinal
Yeah.
round. Any of the 8 teams could win the tournament, but again,
Yeah. When you see
yeah,
Milwaukee coming out of a last place seed to the championship game, as we did about 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
there's been some craziness in this conference tournament.
some quadruplers in the conference tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could see some wildness in that thing. And I agree, though. I think the depth is really there when you go, from Oakland down to Fort Wayne and Robert Morris to a smaller degree, but those 7 are really strong, at least for Horizon level. And we get to see Oakland at Green Bay on Thursday night. I can't wait for that. Green Bay's answered the bell, at least on their home court, against every Horizon team so far. So see if they can keep that going.
Yeah, that is, I think, the big game for this week here in the conference. Although there's a few other interesting ones, such as NKU Youngstown coming up this weekend. But let's try to keep things rolling here. And Rocco, let me stick with you over in the Ivy League, where uh, we've been talking to Princeton all season. We've been talking to Cornell. Preseason, we love this Yale team, and I think we've almost kind of half forgot about them up until maybe the last week or so. But all 3 of them out to a 3-0 start now in conference play.
Yeah, Yale's deadly. I got to see them in person last week inside the Cathedral of Sweat. It's an unbelievable venue. If you guys haven't been, I highly recommend it. But Columbia themselves start 0-3 here, extremely talented too. Not exaggerating. Like that's one of the best Columbia teams talent wise I've seen, but couldn't hit a basket in the second half. Yale ended up blowing them out after it being a close first half. And Yale's got Danny Wolf and Bez Mabang. I sat by 3 different NBA scouts there to watch Danny Wolf, and that's the kind of Ivy League we have. We've got NBA talent in the Ivy. It's pretty amazing, and we've talked about Princeton and a little bit Cornell to death this year. Between those 3, it's super high quality basketball, and then you've got Harvard's got Malik Mack, who's arguably the best freshman in all of America. He just returned, I think, 2 games ago. So now, Harvard was able to knock off Penn with him back, and so they probably going to be my 4th team. But I don't count out Columbia or Penn yet either.
Well, Penn is still down Clark Sladgert, if I said his name correctly,
That's right.
and I don't know if he's coming back. He was the top scorer, so
That
that really hurts with Penn, and so I could see maybe leaning towards Harvard again, that 4th seed in Ivy Madness. Harvard hosting Yale this weekend in the huge game, though. Princeton at Cornell.
That is a really big one. The Ivy League moving along at kind of a slower pace. It is always late to get started. They normally don't start until well after MLK Day. It was always the last conference to kind of
This is
get
normally
going.
This is normally the weekend they
Yeah.
get started. They spread things out, and you saw Cornell sneak in a non D1 game this week even to try to get a little more action here.
Yeah, we've mentioned that before, but I don't know if we have any knowledge as to what the thought process. Why is that, Rocco? Because it seemed like they had the same schedule, same order, same everything. Whether it was 1952 or 2010, the schedule was the same.
They used to call it an academic break.
Yeah.
It's like a 3 or 4 week academic break.
Mm.
I think now some of these guys being NBA prospects, I think it helps kind of muddy the waters, build in some more games during the academic break, but not overload them. Maybe 1 game a week kind of thing.
Yeah, and one of the things that was nice about the old format, while it took them forever to get going, every home game, first of all of the winter sports, or all of the sports, fall, winter, spring, are the same. So Princeton and Cornell, I don't know if it's set up this way, but they would play Cornell in every sport that week. And the students were there for all of it. So it was always kind of a fun little Ivy League setup here.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Here's something they need to fix still. I'm looking at Saturday's schedule, guys. Every single Ivy League game starts at 2:00 Eastern. Why are we doing that? I want to watch Harvard Yale at a different time as Princeton Cornell, but they're all playing at 2:00 Eastern.
Ivy's still gonna Ivy.
Next year, Rocco, in addition to getting you working on on getting teams matched up and getting non-conference games scheduled. We got to get you working on game times as well.
Yeah,
It
out
actually
in
is
the
pretty.
Ivy.
It's becoming more and more important if you want to see these guys play.
Yeah.
Uh, Griggs, Metro Atlantic Conference, and Quinnipiac picked up a pair of wins this week while St. Peter's suffered the loss at Fairfield. So now those two teams are tied for first place with Fairfield right behind them.
I've been burned on Quinnipiac. I don't know how many years running, because it seems like they're always really exciting and they always get off to a good start, not just to conference play, but the season. And then by the end of the year, they're down in the middle or below it. Is this finally the year?
The fact that that win over Iona, I thought Iona was really starting to come on in this conference, and the fact they knocked them off on Sunday, I want to be a believer here, Rocco. I want to believe
I do too.
In the Bobcats.
God, I would love to see them get into the. We'll go to Rocco in a second. I think it would be a great story if they could win this conference and go to the NCAA tournament.
It would be a great story. I think it would be a great story for a lot of these teams too, not just Quinnipiac. But yeah, Matt Belong's playing tremendously well for them. They've got some considerable talent there on Quinnipiac's roster. But I do think Fairfield's playing the best ball across the board. They've been really red hot in the last 4 weeks, and they host Quinnipiac this Sunday. So definitely tune into that. Sunday, you don't have to worry about as many games going on. So no excuse to miss that one. And
very late schedule this Sunday, actually, with the NFL playoffs going on too. So it's a
nice warm up.
Not much. Other than the Purdue Rutgers game, there's not much else going on Sunday afternoon.
Well, selfishly, I'm more excited about going to Fairfield.
Oh, I'm watching Quinnipiac Fairfield before I'm watching the NFL playoffs. That's a given. I'm not even kidding.
I would also like to just give a quick shout out to Niagara because they're the only team that's cooled off Fairfield, and in a big way, they killed them by 24. And Niagara they're 5-3, but in their last 7, they're 6-1. I think Greg Paulus is finally getting a lot of confidence going with these Purple Eagles.
Yep. But I definitely think I do agree with you that Quinnipiac Fairfield game on Sunday is the game of the week in this conference.
Oh yeah,
sporting event of the week.
Sporting event of the decade. Rocco, let me stick with you over the Mid-American Conference where Akron, they won the wagon wheel battle. They took care of Ohio at home a couple nights ago. I just love the way this team is playing right now. I'm all in on the Zips.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no argument in this league. I think they're head and shoulders above the other 11. They've been the most consistent team throughout the year. Toledo's had their moments. Bowling Green's had their moments. Western Michigan had a little moment. But Akron's been steady Eddie all year, and they've got the names. Enrique Freeman, we've seen him for years. We know what we're getting out of him. Ali, who boomeranged back to Akron this year, now eligible after the court ruling. I mean, they've got the makings to be one of those 12, 13 seeds that are capable of winning their first-round game, no doubt.
No doubt.
And you can just tell they're on a different level of mission than the other 11. But Toledo's still pretty talented and knocking teams off, starting to get hot. Like I said, Bowling Green's really well coached. Lost a heartbreaker on Tuesday night, but they'll be back. And I think Ohio's very well coached. I'm just surprised they've lost as many games as they have.
I am too. They've been kind of disappointing this year. I really thought they were going to be kind of a dark horse in this league, and they've just not been.
Yeah, the thing with Toledo, they only have the one conference loss, but it was kind of a surprise to get lost where they lost the game Friday night at Central Michigan. We were not looking at any of these directional Michigan teams, but both Central and Western off to 5-2 starts in the conference.
Yeah, like we thought that was 10, 11, 12. I think everybody did. So, I mean, to see Central and Western doing as well as they're doing, one of the bigger stories. But I'm with you on Akron, and even if you look at some of the games that they lost, it was disappointing at the time. But a lot of those teams have played out. Drake kind of pounded them, but Utah State, they were competitive in that game. Utah State
3-point loss, 1-point
really
loss, 2-point loss to 3 teams that are tier 2A and better.
Right. And in the moment, I was like, well, those are the games that Akron needs. Those aren't even NIT teams. Well, yes, they are. Those are, and in the case of Utah State, they're way more than just an NIT team.
And the cool thing is with the MAC Sunbelt Challenge just announced the second matchups for Saturday, February 10th. Akron being the leading team in this league, they'll get to go to James Madison. Another chance. I mean, it's not going to get them in that large bid or anything, but it's another chance to just beef up their profile, try to get to a 12 seed level. And the other thing I'll say on Western Michigan is they kind of drastically improved with that court ruling in mid-December. Javonte Brown's now played in 9 games, and they're still only giving him around 20 minutes a game. But if you look at his numbers, he's popped for over 20 a couple times. He gets double figures almost every game. So that court ruling stuff has really kind of given these random unsuspecting teams a shot in the arm when these guys were supposed to be initially sitting out.
Let me throw something over to you, Rocco, as being able to predict the committee a lot. If Akron literally wins every single game between now and the MAC championship game, they'd be sitting there at 29-5 overall, 27-5 against D1, no bad losses. They would have probably a tier 1 win at James Madison and the win over Bradley. Did they not at least get a little discussion?
I think they would, because they don't have a bad loss. Now, again, if you lose the MAC championship game, that would probably become their worst loss.
Right? Yeah, but you're talking about,
and that UNLV loss that UNLV loss got a lot worse last night with that Air Force game was ridiculous. But yeah, I think they would get a look, Chad. Absolutely. Right now, their strength of record is 69th. If they get that sucker in the top 50, you got to at least look at them. And I think all those wins would probably get them in the top 50.
And today, I think they will lose a game. I don't think that they will do that, but this is just too tough of a conference. But
yeah.
But they're there. This week they're at Miami, Ohio, at Eastern Michigan. They should win both of those, but we'll see what happens.
And I should also mention Kent State. Like, they were supposed to be much better, but they lost 2 starters, and they're done for the year. So, I mean, Senderhoff's a great coach, and they won.
He is.
Big win over Bowling Green, surprised me last night, but they're playing shorthanded the rest of the way.
Griggs, over in the MEAC, not much action for the past. They're kind of like the Ivy League with only 8 teams. They're playing like one game a week here. But Norfolk State actually bounced back. They had a real nice road win at Howard over the weekend. And even though Delaware State's 3-0, I'm looking at Norfolk again here.
I am too. And then Delaware State, while they didn't, while they managed to win that game, it was they needed overtime to knock off a centenary potential candidate. It was hard to not be impressed with Norfolk State's win at Howard, and I'm starting to think that while they're a game back, they're again looking like the best team.
Yeah, and NC Central actually a surprising loss at South Carolina State, so that really switched my thoughts of this conference, and I'm really think that Norfolk State at the end of the day is going to win this league. Norfolk State has a couple of games. They're hosting Coppin State and Morgan State over the next few days here. While Rocco, NC Central's at Eastern Shore and at Delaware State.
Delaware State, first place by themselves. How about some love for the Hornets?
Let's see where they are.
0-25 against Division I 2 years ago. And now they're in first place.
Yep. Hey, we've got, with them in Lafayette, we've got multiple teams in first place in conferences with sub 300 nets. So,
and I've got them facing each other in Dayton, Chad.
I don't have Delaware State in it right now. I'm gonna have to lean Norfolk State despite that. That is just the way the schedule played out. That Delaware State's 3-0, but they go 2-0 this week, and we could talk again. They'll NC Central home on Monday night.
Yeah, they have a win over Mount. They have a win over Mount St. Mary's. I mean, that's a good win.
It's a non-conference win.
Yeah,
it is. I'm just saying they're not they're not nobody.
I'm half tempted actually to skip a conference, and I think we will. We're going to come back to the Missouri Valley a little later in the show. We normally would go to them next, but there are 2 games going on as we record this that I think we're going to want to discuss based on what happens in them. So let's skip a little bit here. They'll be our least featured conference, I guess, if we do the measure. Let's go right to the Northeast as we go through things here. And Griggs, over in the NEC, Central Connecticut suffered their first loss at home to Lemoyne, of all things, before bouncing back with a win over LIU this weekend.
Yeah, kind of a big surprise there, although it was sort of surprising that they were up there to begin with. But I think one of the stories, now that Merrimack, well, two stories, Merrimack falling down the earth a little bit, but Sacred Heart, the preseason favorite, is starting to look pretty good after all. Can they do it?
Yeah, Merrimack loses at home to Wagner. Sacred Heart then goes and beats Wagner. I
Yeah.
think you're right, Rocco. I think the Sacred Heart team may finally be getting things rolling here.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's actually pretty cool because I think five of these teams in the league are performing as well inside the top 300 level teams
Which is
with the it's huge for them. Yeah, with the
it is.
emergence
We
of
have not
Lemoyne.
seen that. We didn't see it at all last year. The entire league outside the top 300.
Exactly. Yeah, Lemoyne's playing very well. Thanks in part to that big blowout win. But I got to see Merrimack Central Connecticut last Monday in person. Jordan Durkak, possibly the player of the year from Merrimack. I think he's been sick the last couple of games. He didn't look right when I saw him. His cheeks were red. They keep having to pull him back. Something's off. I mean, an illness is all I could think of because he's trying to play through it. So I do expect when Merrimack gets fully healthy, we are in that time of year where the flu's running around. They're going to be real tough to beat. But I was impressed too. There are a couple of really awesome athletes for Central Connecticut. Alan Jean Rose being the lead dog, special player, hit the game-winning free throws in that particular game. I'm not going to write them off either. I do agree though. Sacred Heart seems to have the most overall balance, and Lemoyne will get an invite to the tournament, I believe, right? So
Yes.
they could certainly be a spoiler. They're playing pretty fantastic right now.
We brought this up last week. The Northeast Conference top 8 teams qualify for the
This is
tournament.
great. This is great.
Including Lemoyne and Stonehill are both eligible to participate in the Northeast Conference tournament. If one of those teams wins the conference tournament, like what happened with Merrimack last year, the team they beat in the finals will get the automatic bid. But if by chance those two teams meet in the NEC tournament final, what the Northeast Conference will do will have its two semifinals. Losers play each other in a separate bonus game
Yes!
for the auto bid. It is the NEC tournament bonus game. It's
And that
mathematically possible.
I bet you the bonus game is the one they'll put on TV.
I don't know how that works. I don't know how it's contracted.
Contractually, they may have to put the championship game on,
But
but
it
they
would
may
be
find
on
a way to do
NEC
them both.
front row. Oh, we'd be rocking it.
Oh,
They
yeah.
may
They'd
jump
shatter the
it over
record.
to ESPN News or something like that. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Oh man, they'd shatter records on that platform.
Yeah.
Merrimack at Wagner Thursday night. Probably one of the better games of this week, at least in the conference.
Yeah.
OVC time.
Stonehill's not very good, by the way. I don't
No,
think.
no,
They almost they almost beat Rutgers. Oh, I shouldn't have even mentioned
Oh my
that.
Speaking of not very good.
Rocco, Ohio Valley Conference. Morehead State bounced back from that loss they had a couple weeks ago, picked up wins over UT Martin and won at Southern Indiana. While Western Illinois did suffer their first loss, it was a really surprising home loss to Tennessee State.
Yeah, Tennessee State's got some dynamite athletes, and they're a really hard team to predict because some nights they just don't show up. But when they show up, they're pretty deadly. The beginning of the year they went to Portland and surprised them, beat them by 10. Now they've ripped off 3 in a row. So you kind of got to look at the Tigers a little closer at 4-3. And then I think Western Illinois. I talked about them a couple episodes ago, where Chad Bourdreau comes in with a great defensive pedigree, big time winner at the lower levels of college basketball, doing a great job. But I do think behind Riley Minix and Jordan Lathon over at Morehead State, arguably the two best players in this league, and certainly the most established coach in Preston Spradlin, Morehead State's the team to beat.
And we get one of the best games of the conference season this weekend. They're going to be hosting second place Western Illinois.
Great game.
That's the game you want to absolutely circle here in the OVC. Maybe not only this week, but for the next 3 or 4 weeks. This is the only game to circle.
Edwardsville keeping pace. Keep an eye on them because, again, a conference that uses the ladder format. The loser of that game Saturday, SIUE might have a chance to catch them. They already have the win over Morehead State, so they would have the tiebreaker, at least for now.
Yeah, try to get up to that second place spot.
And they've been a hot and cold team too, just like Tennessee State.
Mm-hmm. Breaking news out of the SoCon tonight, where
Oh,
where
Oh my
Buckyball's
gosh.
17-game winning streak is over. They go to Furman and lose by 10, and it wasn't even that close. Furman really took it to him tonight,
are
Griggs.
we sure Furman didn't cheat?
Yeah. Now Furman actually now red hot back-to-back wins over
Yeah.
Western Carolina and Samford. We kind of like the Paladins heading into the season. Rocco, maybe they finally woken up here.
No, they're finally healthy. I mean, they've been injured all year. And so, in fairness to them, it's taken a long time to get back. Almost every one of their starters has missed time. And Marcus Foster is an absolute beast. 22-11 tonight in the big win. And JP Pegwis, of course, hit the game winner last year in the NCAAs against Virginia. He's an all league level guy. So with everybody healthy, I think it's a darn good team that is right there to win the league. Made a big statement here tonight and in their game before when they beat Western. So a couple big statements now for them. We also tonight, Chad, saw an incredible game between UNC Greensboro and
Greensboro,
Western
that's the
Carolina.
next game to mention. Yeah, but Greensboro also getting back in the heck mix of things here.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, and Mikhail Brown-Jones back healthy, went crazy, 39 points and 9 rebounds in the overtime win on the road. And Vontarius Woolbright, probably the de facto player of the year, put up his own. I think he had 32. That was just an incredible high-level game. Unfortunately for Western Carolina, they've now had to play Samford, Furman, and UNCG in 3 straight, lost all 3, and find themselves 4-3 all of a sudden after a 4-0 start. Still a
Yeah.
very good team. And then also in this league, we had Mercer blow an 11-point lead and lose to the Citadel by 2. And we also had East Tennessee State have to swat a shot at the buzzer by VMI to win by 1. It was an absolutely wild night in the SoCon.
Yeah. VMI, congrats to them, first of all, over the weekend, getting the
Yeah.
big rivalry win over the Citadel, first D1 win of the season. Court
Storm the
storming.
court.
Yep.
And I allow them to store the court. That's a big rivalry there, actually. So
Yeah.
go
That's
for
one
it.
of our favorites.
It is.
As far as this week goes, Samford, they are at East Tennessee State and hosting Wofford. Well, if we're paying attention to Furman here, they are going to be at Wofford and then at the Citadel. So
Should win
few
both of
games
those.
there.
Right? Yeah.
Wofford does not like Furman. It could get hairy there.
Yeah, that is a bitter rivalry, isn't it? Like most people that
is.
don't follow the under the radar, or if they do, they don't follow the SoCon, don't realize that one's the temperature of that one is pretty hot.
Yeah,
That's
very
going
close
up.
geographically as well. Yep.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on them next Wednesday. Also, Chattanooga at Western Carolina. Western Carolina should beat VMI over the weekend, but they need to get things rolling here, and Chattanooga
turn
can
it
be
around.
dangerous as well.
Chattanooga's got a great coach, Dan Earl.
Let's talk about what happened on Monday
Oh,
night, and
my
the only
goodness.
game worth watching Monday night, where McNeese State was getting their asses kicked by Texas
Yes.
A&M Corpus Christi. It was, and they had Griggs one of the. You go ahead and describe it. It was one of the most amazing finishes I've seen all season.
Right.
Maybe
Now,
not
what
quite
was
as good
the
as the Yale
Oh,
Vermont
God.
game, but maybe second to that.
Yeah, to set the tone, was it 15 or was it even more that McNeese was down on the road at Corpus Christi and just
much more. It started second half started 17-0.
17
And
overall.
Yeah.
and that put them up by 18 overall because they had a 1-point halftime lead.
Yeah, so it was 18, and then and then they got off to the ridiculous run to start the second half. And McNeese, they make plays and they get back and they inch in, and their test with I don't know, would you call it, they go to the free throw line and they're down 2, and it wasn't down 3, so they weren't attempting the college basketball version of the onside kick per se. They were attempting to make both free throws and tie the game. Well, they missed the second one, got the offensive rebound, and got the putback with less than a second to go.
Got the putback, which missed. It got another rebound, and that's the one that went in. And so it was not only the rebound on the free throws, then the rebound on the miss as well. It went into the buzzer, and it was just, that's the type of win that, I don't know that Rocco, this team is going to lose again now. That this was their bad game. I think they got out of their system. They found a way to win it. If I was New Orleans on Saturday, I wouldn't want to show up for this game.
Well, I will say, Corpus Christi was playing really well before that game. There was considerable hope going in that they could pull it off. And I think pretty clearly they're the second best team right now. I think based on all that, McNeese is not going to have a harder game than that until they play Corpus again, which will be at home. Lamar's shown a little bit as a possible breakout team, but I can't envision McNeese losing to Lamar.
I can't envision McNeese losing to anyone, and it's an interesting profile. What does the
Right.
committee do with this? We've seen this type
Yeah.
of profile before, really out of this conference with SFA a few
Yeah.
times before they moved leagues, and even mostly them. And typically, 12-13 line is where you would expect them to land. But is there a case, Rocco, if they do win
Yeah.
out? I know it's a weak win, or does one of their
There
wins?
is.
Okay, you think so? Yeah.
I think so. Well, right now in one of the resume metrics, they're still 37th, and
SOR, yep.
Yeah.
and KPI for whatever reason has them in the high 70s. But I think just that alone gets a look. I think 140th non-conference strength of schedule is completely fine for them, especially since nobody wanted to play
Well,
them.
there's an asterisk by that. It's not factoring in four really, like the four non-D1s.
Which is
The
fine.
committee's going to look at that.
That's fine, and I don't think that's going to hurt them per se because they had the whole other side of the coin, which is almost everybody said no when they wanted to play. So the thing is for McNeese, I've talked to VCU people. They think VCU is going to get better. So hopefully for McNeese's sake, they will. Nice win for VCU yesterday. And then Michigan, God knows where they're going to go with all the turmoil there. But if somehow Michigan rights the ship, of course, that could turn into a Q1 game pretty quickly. So outside of that, I mean, the two losses to Louisiana Tech and WCU on the road, both by single digits, if those are their only blemishes, plus maybe a heartbreaker to, which would be a home loss. Keep in mind, if they lose in the conference tournament, it's a home loss.
And you're talking about a loss that smells really, really bad.
Yeah, Corpus Christi is 215 right now, and that would be the best case scenario. But I think they could get in. I think they could.
Rocco, let me stick with you over in the SWAC here, and I don't really know what to say here.
Grambling.
I wanted to get on the Bethune-Cookman bandwagon with their huge win they had last week. They won at Mississippi Valley, but then they lost at Pine Bluff on Monday night. So I don't really know that. Is it Grambling, Jackson State, Alabama State, Southern, or should we just wait until the conference tournament in this league?
Well, I think Jackson State and Southern have the most talent.
Yeah,
I'll say those two. So I'm banking on them. I was a little surprised when I think it was Prairie View A&M went into Jackson and beat them. That surprised me. But I think
yes.
I did get to watch the Chris Paul Vegas tournament with the HBCUs. Jackson State, to me, out of all four of those teams, looked the strongest with the most talent. They won both of those games. They were playing, I think, like North Carolina A&T and maybe it was Hampton or Howard.
I think Hampton was out there too. Yeah.
Yeah. So they beat Howard actually. So
Howard.
I think this Jackson State team's pretty good, and of course, coached by an NBA player in Monte Williams. So we'll see. Southern's won at UNLV. They won at Mississippi State. So Southern's got a high gear as well. Those are the two, I think.
Yep, Jackson State's at Bethune at FAMU this week. That's always the tough Florida trip. While Southern's got home games against Pine Bluff and Mississippi Valley, and we gotta give a little shout to Mississippi Valley. Might have even caught Detroit. It may be in the lead now for our Centenary Award for the worst team in D1. They've never won it before, so
Yeah, I know. I mean, they've always been in the running, but never won it. So
we'll see if they can get a win here too. It's
possible.
They have better shots at getting wins than Detroit Mercy does. I'll put it that much.
Right.
Over in the Summit League, Griggs, South Dakota State now in sole possession of first place following wins over Omaha and a nice road win at rival South Dakota this weekend.
Yeah, and South Dakota State really, really disappointing start to the season. Not so much conference play as it was out of conference. So much so that I think we sort of wrote them off and wrote most of the league off. But now that are they finally starting to hit their stride? And while they're not as good as I think we thought they were going to be overall, they might still be the best team in this league, and they've looked it so far.
Yeah, especially with Denver. Denver had a real nice road win at North Dakota State. I was really on Thursday night. I was really on the Denver bandwagon, and then they just didn't bother showing up at the game at North Dakota on Saturday, and that was really disappointing. So that's pushed Denver back a game off the lead here in the league.
Mm-hmm.
upcoming schedule here. South Dakota State's going to be hosting Kansas City and at Oral Roberts, while Denver's going to be hosting South Dakota and Omaha this week.
Yeah, and Oral Roberts really struggling after being a front runner for several years running.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
Rocco, over in the Sun Belt Conference, we've got JMU. Ever since their losses this week, they just crushing people. They crushed Monroe, they crushed Marshall, they won big at Old Dominion tonight.
For the second time.
For the second time, they got to do it one more time though. They actually played 3 times this year in regular
Yeah.
season, because they had a non-conference game against each other. But meanwhile, App State's cruising along there as well. Are these two teams just heading for another showdown and maybe a third one in the conference tournament?
It's really hard to say because I think there's a lot of other great stories across the league. Those are
Mhm.
definitely the two favorites, but Troy had a grip on first place for the first 3 weeks. Now they're still sitting there at 6-2, playing really consistent basketball. Southern Miss is the ultimate wild card. Andre Cabrillo, of course, has had a concussion the last 2 games and missed both of them, but they found ways to win them both without him.
Mhm.
Marshall's got their crazy 3-point deadliness. Louisiana Cajuns are tough as nails, and they don't take any crap from anybody, as evidenced by the post-game skirmish with James Madison. And Arkansas State is crazy to me. And South Alabama, they always get hot late in the year. So, I mean, I think there's still a good 7 or 8 teams that could swipe this thing.
Okay. I think this is a real interesting conference here.
Very interesting.
Looking ahead here, Appalachian State this week is hosting Georgia Southern, and then the big one on Saturday, the rematch against JMU.
Yeah.
So that is going to be
Must watch.
on ESPN2. It's been elevated up
Good.
for national TV. So
That's a good game. Let's not forget, App State, everybody remembers how James Madison opened the season. That win has lost a little bit of its shine. James Madison's win at home over Auburn looking pretty good too. I'm sorry, I just App State's
App
win.
State's home win
Yeah.
over Auburn. Yes.
I don't know. Is the show over yet?
Okay. There's the upcoming schedule. Let's jump over the Western Athletic Conference, Griggs, Grand Canyon. They go to Seattle. We talked about last week of what a tough road trip that is, and they could not find a way to win that game.
They couldn't. They just fell behind. I still like their team. I still like their profile. I still think they belong inside the bubble. And I still think that there's a chance that they might crack the rankings, albeit not as soon as we thought that they might. I don't think that you're allowed no strikes. You're just not allowed many. And this is, I don't think any less of them than I did before the loss at Seattle. It's not easy to win there. And it was a big showcase game. Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying, Rocco, their next 4 games here, 3 out of the 4 on the road. The home game is Seattle again. So this is a big stretch now for the Lopes if they want to be inside the bubble or crack the rankings or the like.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's the tough thing about the WAC that most of the country doesn't understand. This is a really expanded geographical footprint league and a lot of really gritty programs. Tough places to win. And they've already passed tests that they won at 2 of the Utah schools already. Now, going to Stephen F. Austin and UT Arlington back to back, I mean, that's going to be really tough to get both of them.
Yeah, so and that in fact is the game that games I'll be highlighting is starting tomorrow night. That game at SFA, I think that could be a real good game.
That's a real good game at SFA. I mean, look at it this way: like as pivotal as that is, if they lose it, SFA jumps over them. I mean, they're going to be tied in the loss column. Yeah,
yep,
it's a first place game.
Yeah.
Chicago State picked up a pair of wins.
Yeah.
East-West U, and they beat Xavier.
They beat Xavier. John Stalika's Xavier Musketeers going down to Chicago State.
A big game this week. They're going to Duquesne Wednesday night. Go and take on the Dukes, see if they can pick up another D1 win here. But that was a real quick look at our one independent. And we run out of time here. We're going to go back to the Missouri Valley Conference. I promised we would. Where it's been a crazy night tonight. Wow. That's why we delayed it.
Yes.
Indiana State barely won at UIC. They found a way to win it. And as we record this, we are in double overtime between Drake and Missouri State. But we're going to have to discuss the conference now. And if that game goes final, we'll come back to it again at the very, very end of the show. But This
I've
is
got Drake on right here.
Yeah.
meanwhile, Bradley, the Rocco's is a team that's really
Making
playing well.
some noise. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, Bradley's playing on an extremely high level. They had a 5-game losing streak primarily during the same time that Connor Hickman was out. Ever since Hickman's come back, they've been back to humming. I got to see them beat Tulane and win the SoCal Challenge in November. I like this team a lot. Malavi Leones is a special talent, and you got guys like Hickman, and the supporting cast is great. And some of the metrics right now say Bradley's playing the best in the whole league, even better than Drake and Indiana State on
I
a
buy that. Yeah.
yeah, it's they're a real threat, of course.
yeah. If you look at the KPI there, they've got a better KPI than Indiana State does.
Yeah. But
They've
you brought up a really good point. They had what you might call a rough December.
Mhm.
They lost 5 in a row,
pulled
but
it
it
back
was
up again.
yeah, due to them not having a key player. And you can't help but think that they would have won some of those with him.
And this is impressive. A
That's
9-game
all
winning
5
streak
of their
they're on right
losses.
now.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
all 5 of them.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't win all of them, but they probably win that game against Duquesne, and they probably win 2 or 3 of them.
Cleveland State for sure.
Yeah.
You
And
would
look at
think.
this. Look at this coming up Saturday. Bradley at Indiana State. So absolutely circle that game. That is an absolutely huge game, and it looks like Indiana State was already thinking about that game tonight
Yeah.
when they were at UAC, but somehow found a way to win. On the other hand, Drake, as we record this, is now down 3 in double overtime at Missouri State. And if there was a
Crazy.
2-bid Valley chance here, it might be going away if Drake is the team that needs the at-large bid if they can't win this game. This would not be a good.
Yeah.
This
I like the
this would be a bad
Sycamore.
loss.
I like the Sycamore's position better right now for at large anyway, but obviously you want both to keep playing well to have the best chance. The interesting thing about this Drake Missouri State matchup is, Missouri State has given Drake fits for 2 straight years. They swept them. They swept them last year, which was a shocker. And this year, Missouri State's been in all sorts of turmoil with uh, fans calling for Dana Ford to be fired, getting killed at home by Murray State, losing that weird game to Illinois State last weekend. And this is the game that everybody showed up for. It's just kind of crazy how it works.
Yeah.
Sometimes one team has another team's number,
This is the case.
such as when like a team from New Jersey plays a team from the state of Indiana.
Yeah.
I had to find a way to
I
go
thought
do it.
you were going to say when Stonehill plays Rutgers.
Oh, that's
Oh.
another. Let's run to some of our mythical conferences here, real quick. Update our standings in the Beehive Conference, and we got to give some congratulations to the Utah Utes. Based on Utah Tech's disappointing 0-2 week in conference play, Utah is your Beehive Conference champion, unless Utah State somehow in postseason play can get 2 more games in. I don't think it's going to happen though.
I don't think so either.
Uh,
It's gonna be hard.
no, no.
Well, what if
games.
they might play Utah in Salt Lake? How about no, they
Eh,
can't because Utah's hosting. Never mind.
But they might play each other in the Sweet 16. They might
can.
play each other in the Final Four.
Yeah.
There's still a
Oh
chance
my
for
God,
for-
wouldn't that be wild?
but for now, for regular season at least, it looks like Utah's going to be at the top at the end of the regular season. Postseason play could affect the standings. No games this week. The Front Range Conference. We had some Front Range action. No, we didn't have any Front Range action this week, but I think we've got some coming up here. Yes,
We got Colorado State.
including the
Yeah.
highlight game of Front Range. It's the Colorado State Wyoming border war.
The
Briggs.
border
This is-
war.
and Wyoming. This will be their first game of Front Range play too. So
Yeah.
Wyoming then going to Air Force. Big week for Wyoming in the Front Range. Back Range, our Arizona, New Mexico schools in that area.
Yeah,
New
not all
Mexico
of them.
still leading the way here. Haven't had any action. Let's see.
Yeah.
No action this week too.
Yeah, they
We-
just
we've
don't
gotta
play
get-
mini backgrounds. Yeah.
They got to get some more games going. But how about up in the top range? We had a lot of action in the top range.
Yeah. How about Idaho State with some big wins.
And look at Montana there, only half a game behind Wazoo now after a nice win over Montana State. And
Gonzaga's struggling.
Gonzaga's
Grief.
doing bad in the West Coast Conference, and doing even worse in the top range. So hey,
Yeah.
let's see what we got. Anything coming up this week? I think we might have a couple. No, a week off this week from top range.
Yeah.
How about our top 10 lists instead?
Oh.
Rocco voted for about 300 teams this week, so we got a lot of honorable mentions.
There's a lot of teams that you should be considering.
Yeah.
But let's start with all honorable mentions. These are teams that got some votes either to make the field or be an honorable mention, but did not quite make it. We had Cornell, Louisiana Tech, Drexel, Wilmington, Eastern Washington, Vermont, Bradley, High Point, and Yale, all getting at least a little bit of love.
All
Yeah.
good teams.
Yeah.
In 10th place, we have UC
The
Irvine.
Eaters. Yeah. Despite
Barely
the loss.
hanging into the polls.
Yeah.
Barely hanging in. At number 9, we have Akron. We talked
God,
about the
that's
Zips.
a good team. Yeah.
At number 8, Appalachian
Apps.
State.
Yeah. And this one is hot, hot, hot. They are, and then it's going to be crazy against JMU this
And Joe's JMU right above them in 7th place. Now we have a 3-way tie for 4th. All these votes were before today's games were played. I'll throw this out there. Our 4th place teams might move around based on what happened tonight, but we have a 3-way tie between Indiana State, who did pick up a win,
Yeah.
Drake, who
lost, so we would probably have the
just-
trees ahead of Drake,
and
then-
Samford, who also
Oh.
lost.
Oh,
Yeah, so let's go here. The top 3, though. Number 3, we have McNeese State, the Cowboys.
yeah,
moving on up.
climbing. Such a good team. That's a team that can win in the round of 64.
At number 2, falling down out of their top spot is the Grand Canyon Antelopes. And at number 1, back in first place. They were in first place. They didn't lose a game, and they fell out. Well, they're back. It's the Princeton Tigers.
All right.
That's our number 1 under the radar team. That is our top 10. And let's run to final thoughts here. Rocco, let me start with you.
Yeah, I want to give a little bit of love to the North Carolina A&T Aggies, a team that many wrote off before conference play began. And the Aggies, they've had an influx of not only great play from potential all-conference player Landon Glasper, who's CAA Player of the Week, but also just getting eligibility status for Jason Murphy has ignited this program in the first year under Monte Ellis, shocking many people out there at a 4-2 record and now tied for second behind Drexel, tied with teams like Charleston, UNC, Wilmington. This is a team very similar to Lafayette that was 2-11 entering conference play with only wins over Texas Southern and a bad Coastal Carolina team. And now they've knocked off Northeastern and William & Mary in a home sweep this last week. The Aggies, I talked to them earlier this week. They're very fired up for their 2-game trip to Delaware and Drexel. We'll see if they can knock one of them off.
All right. And Griggs, you want to finish the show?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to North Carolina A&T. They have some good.
Wait, Rocco just said that. Go ahead, give you your final thought.
Well, they started off 2-11. They have some key players back there. What the?
On that note, thanks for joining us, everybody. On behalf of Rocco Miller from PracNew.org, David Griggs from Nolan gets final thoughts. I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you again real soon.